for computers, as far as we're concerned, is IBM Lenovo, MTech, MSI, Asus, and Acer. Um, there are some of you that have Dells. I'm not a fan of Dell. Um, a lot of people are because they are an old company and they've been around for a long, long time and they're reliable and they're a good home computer. And some people are using them for professional computers these days. I do have some reporters that use the Dells. Dell has never worked as well with Dragon Naturally Speaking as other computers that we have seen, and so we do not recommend it. Some people are very pleased with their Dells. So that doesn't mean you can't use Dells. It just means that for our own purposes and for what we've been doing for 23 years, we have not seen the kind of um, performance out of Dells that we like to see in a computer. Um, okay, let's talk about the most important components. The most important components are definitely the processor, which right now the latest greatest is an i9 quad core. Um, well, actually, this is an 8-core machine that I'm working on now, and as I said, it's almost 2 years old. Um, the operating system has got to be Windows 10 Pro 64 because it's a professional operating system. You should not be doing a job as important as court reporting without a professional operating system because professional operating systems are going to hold you up a lot better than the home operating systems. Um, Word processors, we have no preference. I mean, I have a personal preference, but you can use whatever word processor you like. Um, Memory these days, if you are a real time writer, we suggest 32 gigabytes of RAM. If you are not really a real time writer, you're not sending a feed to anyone, and you're not really overly focused on high accuracy, 16 gigabytes will do just fine. But if you're a real time writer, you really should be at 32. The hard drives, most people are liking solid state hard drives these days simply because solid state hard drives write faster than a conventional hard drive with moving parts. Um, your storage capacity, if you are recording digital audio, should be large. If you're not recording digital audio, you probably do not have to worry about having a 1 terabyte drive. If you are recording audio onto your computer and you're buying a new computer, yes, 1 terabyte is what you should be looking for, whether it's solid state or not. If you are going to go with a computer that is not solid state, make sure that the hard drive is spinning at 7,500 RPMs. That's rotations per minute. And that's much faster than the less expensive 5,400. So make sure you pay attention to that. Um, the display should be an anti-glare just for your safety, your eyes. Um, the graphics card, look for an NVIDIA graphics card. The graphics card does absolutely matter. So make sure you look for a good one. NVIDIA is the best. Purchase the best warranty for your computer that you can afford. This is your profession. You should also have a backup computer. I like to tell people, I like to give this analogy. I'm a tech, so my customers call me for support. So if one of my customers called me in an urgent need for support and I needed to dial into her to fix her problem, but my computer was acting up and I said, "Oh, I'm sorry, my computer's not working this morning. What would you think of me?" I'm thinking you would think I wasn't very professional, which is why everyone at my company has 2 computers because if one goes down, you can still work. I believe that the same thing is true for court reporters. You need to always be able to work. And the majority of the court reporters I've worked with over the past 23 years, it is absolutely verboten to say, oh, why don't you use your digital recorder backup? They would just laugh me out of the room. Nobody wants to go back to digital recording when they've got digital recording and instant voice to text. So that's understandable. The things on the right are the less important components. In other words, I don't generally care what kind of, if you have a fingerprint reader, what kind of keyboard you have. If it's got to be comfortable for you to work on. You should have a camera these days with all the Zoom stuff happening. I don't care about TPM or the fingerprint pointing device. Most of us prefer external mice. The battery, you can get one that goes longer and one that is a little bit shorter. This only matters when you're scoping. You never want to take down on a battery. And I'll tell you why. As a matter of fact, you never want to turn your computer on until it is plugged in to the wall. This normally is a surprise to a lot of people, but it's a fact. So if you turn on your computer so that it can start booting up, but you haven't dug your power cord out yet, what you're doing is your computer is going to come up in a lesser mode. It is not going to be as fast, as accurate. It's not going to be any of that without AC power. So you can have the best computer in the world if you're running it on battery and you're recording digital audio, creating text by voice, and God forbid, sending some sort of a real-time feed or doing Zoom as well, you are not going to have an easy time of it. So you really want to pay attention to plugging in your computer first, then turning it on. That way it boots up with its full power. Because anytime you move on to battery power, your computer is stepping down. As a court reporter, you cannot afford your computer to step down. Most people like wireless. I would not live without it personally. Your display panel, as I said, you want to shoot for NVIDIA display, but that's about all. The stuff on the right is not stuff I worry about. The stuff on the left, that's what you really need to worry about. Okay, let's talk about another big deal in computers today. It used to be that every computer you would buy had a plug-in for the mic and a plug-in for the speaker or the headset. Not so much anymore. Now we have what is called combo ports. The combo port merges mic in and headset out. When I first heard this, I remember thinking, why would they do this? Why would they do this? I don't know. Maybe they need to sell more peripherals because it's a real pain in the butt because normally we use that internal sound card to record a channel, but you can't use it for both without a splitter. So you would either have to use it to monitor or to record. If you want to use it for both, it requires that you get a little fancy. So let me show you where that comes in. Okay. This is a microphone and headset splitter. Okay, so this is a Y adapter, a splitter, and if you plug it into your combo port, it will then allow you to use one of these, and they are marked, by the way. One is for the headset and one is for the microphone. And again, it's in black, so it's something you can feel. And those of us who are a little bit older really need to put on our cheaters to actually see um, how these are labeled. But using a converter like this is what's going to allow you to use your combo port for mic in and headset out. Please be advised that not all combo ports work. I found this one that I thought was just so cute. And I loved the fact that it was easy to read the headset and mic in. But when I plugged it into my computer's combo port, it did not work to record or to listen. So much for that cute little device. It doesn't work. So you really have to be cautious because not every device you're going to buy is going to work for your computer. We generally try to put the links to the ones that we've tried and they've worked out there for you so that you can not waste your money and buy one that actually works. Some of some of these come with headsets with boom microphones, and I find that these are the best quality, the ones that come with those. And once you plug it in, as I said, you plug your headset into one and a microphone in the other. That way you can listen to the audio and record from that same port. Okay, random access memory. I think that a lot of court reporters these days know that random access memory is very important and you must have it. 8 gigs of random access memory used to be a lot, not anymore. At Dragon 15, you really need 16 gigabytes to get by. Otherwise, the translation is going to be slow. Um, and if you have a slower processor, it's going to double. It's going to be super, super slow. Um, RAM is where data is stored before processing. So as you speak and Dragon hears your voice, it goes into random access memory while it is translating it into text and then drops it onto the screen. The more random access memory you have, the better, since you are generally doing multiple things at one time. The memory used for RAM is volatile, meaning that it only holds onto that data while the chip is powered. So it's not designed to hold information long term. What does that mean? That means that when you turn off your computer, your RAM is empty. So if you haven't been able to drop that data into a document, it's gone once you reboot. RAM is the memory that lets you work with the data needed to run programs and open files. Whenever your computer loads a program or opens a file, it opens up that data in RAM. Even your operating system uses RAM when it's running, and the operating system is running when your computer is on. When you want to run a program, it pulls the data from long-term storage on your hard drive to short-term storage in RAM, where it can be accessed quickly. This flow of data between the disk and the RAM is controlled by the computer, which manages the writing of data to physical locations on the memory chip. It is important to note that RAM needs a certain amount of free space to function. Let's read that again. It is important to note that RAM needs a certain amount of free space to function. Meaning, if all of your RAM is being used and there's no free space in your RAM, that's a problem for your computer and will affect performance. For each program you run, it will actively use some of the space for in-use memory and allocate some of the available space as standby memory, essentially reserved space for potential operations. The bottom line is that RAM is essential to the smooth operating of your computer, particularly for things like multitasking and accessing multiple files at one time. While your overall performance will largely be dictated by the capabilities of your processor and graphics hardware, your memory allotment will directly impact how well you can take advantage of that performance. Too little RAM creates a bottleneck that slows everything down. And the basic rule of thumb is that more RAM is always better. What do you need to remember about RAM? Okay, first of all, what you see in the upper left-hand corner of the screen is actually a chip of RAM. We call this a DIMM. And normally most computers have two DIMM slots. So let's say that you are writing real time and you have 16 gigabytes of RAM. Chances are you actually have two 8-gigabyte DIMMs, making 16. When you are purchasing a new computer, it is always best to make sure that the next level of RAM that you could move up to is available. In other words, your computer is expandable. So you say, I need my RAM to be expandable because let's say right now you can easily get 34 gigs of RAM. They would give you two 16-gigabyte chips. Let's say that you wanted to move up to 64. Well, because you have two 16s, you would have to toss those two 16s and buy two 34s. Because if you don't have balanced RAM, it doesn't behave as properly. So balanced means both of your DIMMs should be the same. I do have people that will say, well, I've got 16 gigs of RAM, but I've got two DIMMs. So if I buy a 16-gigabyte chip, I'll only lose an 8, and I'll have 16 plus 8, and that's better than 8 plus 8. So adding RAM is a good way to get your computer lasting a little bit longer. So it's also important to know that RAM is super easy to install. Normally, there is a place on the back of your computer that has screws. And if you unscrew the plate and you lift the plate up, you will see where your RAM lives. And generally, it's very easy to take out DIMMs and to put them back in. And most companies will have a little video. Even I generally will go to a house that is selling specifically RAM. In other words, I'll look online for a distributor that deals in RAM. And oftentimes, if you go to the manufacturer site for your model of computer, you can say, what kind of RAM do I need? And it will tell you. And then you can go and search up that RAM. And oftentimes, you can buy RAM from a site online. And when you get it, you can actually access that site, watch a video, and they'll show you how to put it in. It's not nearly as hard as you would think. It's super easy, actually. I used to never deal with hardware. I used to never touch internal hardware. But when we started selling computers, there was just the need. And so I learned, and it's incredibly easy. So good stuff there. Um, One of the things that you might notice here in red is that you want to have more memory than you will use. And as you approach the limits of your memory, the impact on your productivity and user experience will be felt more and more, right up until you can't do much of anything. And that is what we see a lot. And people say, well, nothing changed. That's not really true. Every time you do a Windows update, things change. Every time you do a manufacturer's updates, things change. And so it's very important to make sure that you've got what you need inside your computer. And RAM is so very important. What is a CPU and what do we need to look for? I think everyone pretty much knows these days that the CPU is that hamster running on the wheel. That is the big deal inside your computer. The CPU, the processor, is what is powering your computer, making it able to do everything that it does. It is the brain of the computer where most of the thinking happens. A faster CPU lets you crunch spreadsheets, surf web pages, play games, or edit photos faster, but a higher wattage processor may also give you worse battery life. We don't care about that because we run on power. Most laptops today are powered by an Intel CPU, though there are several models that use AMD processors. Please avoid AMD processors. Dragon and AMD do not have a love relationship. Um, I have a customer that has an almost identical computer to another customer. Only difference is that she has an AMD processor, and her computer um, is virtually useless. It could function well as a digital recording machine, but it is not an impressive writing machine at all. Um, Stick to Intel Inside. Intel's 8th generation core platform is available in iCore, Core i7, and Core i9. 8th gen core chips are between 50 and 92% faster than their predecessors on multi-threaded tasks. Processors to look for these days are mainly the Kaby Lake Refresh, Coffee Lake, and Ice Lake. You don't have to really understand that. You just have to know what to say when you go looking. Oftentimes, when you purchase from an online retailer like IBM Lenovo, straight from MSI, straight from Asus, straight from Acer, straight from MTech, you are going to get a better computer than you get at Best Buy or any retailer because IBM, Lenovo, Dell, all of these people create special computers for these big retailers. But remember that most of these computers that are created for the retailers are for your average Joe. You are not your average Joe. And the work that you do on your computer is extremely heavy. It's intense and it's intensive to your computer. And so you need to have the best hardware to support the software that you are using. The other things are not that important. What you want to always do when you buy a computer is buy the fastest CPU that you can afford because a CPU cannot be changed in a laptop. If you're working with a desktop computer, that is a different situation. But most of us work on laptops because of the natures of our job. And so CPUs are not able to be changed. Not yet. What CPU do you need? The CPU inside a laptop cannot be changed or upgraded the way that RAM or hard drives can. So make sure that you purchase the fastest, best quality CPU that you can afford because you are stuck with it for the life of that computer. What is the GPU? When I was doing research for this presentation, I learned a great deal. I did not really know that the graphics card could make such an incredible difference in performance for us, but it can. Um, the the GPU is the brain. The brain is the CPU, and the GPU is like the occipital lobe, responsible for rendering images, video, and animations in either 2D or 3D for the display. The chip performs rapid mathematical computations, freeing up the processor for other tasks. Where a CPU consists of a few cores focused on sequential serial processing, GPUs pack thousands of smaller cores designed for multitasking. So, the long and the short of it, I'll let you read this later. Um, Again, 8th generation Kaby Lake is the best thing that you can get out there right now. Um, the thing that you want to remember is that the best graphics card for Dragon today is the NVIDIA card. So keep that in mind when you're looking for a computer. Um, this is basically just explaining some more about bandwidth. That's what measures the rate the data can be read or stored into the VRAM by the video card. A video card with high memory bandwidth can render images faster and at higher quality. Your base clock is measured in megahertz, and the base clock is your video card's speed in non-stress testing applications. This is the absolute minimum speed your GPU will run at under non-stressful applications. Your boost clock is the minimum amount of boost speed you can get from your GPU, minimum. Your memory is the memory speed is the VRAM speed, which is measured in megahertz and determines the frequency between the VRAM and the GPU. The NVIDIA CUDA cores, that's compute unified device architecture, is NVIDIA's programming language that can specifically give ways to perform tasks with greater speed and efficiency. So you do want to pay attention to the GPU speeds because it can affect your performance. Okay, let's talk about this. This has been a conversation that we've been having for many years: solid state hard drive versus solid state drive versus hard drive. So a solid state drive doesn't have as many moving parts. A hard drive has a needle that's writing onto a disk. So if your computer jumps, bounces, anything like that, then it is going to mess up the write. That's not true for solid state. The solid state writes way, way, way faster. But one thing that you need to understand is that solid state drives are extremely expensive, and you need big drives if you're going to be recording audio. Will it have enough space for all of your files? And even if you choose a solid state hard drive, not all of them are equally speedy. Keep in mind that if you end up going with a solid state drive, it is imperative, and I do mean imperative, that you safely export all of your data on a regular basis, because if solid state crashes, you can rarely get it back. If that doesn't scare you and you have a solid state drive, it should. That is what kept me away from solid state drives for years. And sure enough, no sooner did I have a solid state drive than I actually lost something. and I had saved it the night before, but the solid state hard drive was updating, I guess, while I saved it. It did not save it. It was not there the next morning. So be careful. Solid state drives are fast. Yes. They're great. Yes.